for you as Charlie, what would you want your ring of power to look like?
To look like. That's really cool.
Hey Charlie, my name is Thomas with OneTakeNews. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you, Thomas. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just want to say congrats on this show and the success of it. I love watching you as Sauron in this. I think you're the best part of the show, and your scenes are just so incredible and captivating to watch.
Thank
So,
you.
my first question for you is going into season two, now that Sauron is out in the open after the big reveal at the end of season one, and he's not hiding in the shadows anymore, what was your mindset like for portraying the character in general?
I think I wanted the character to be faithful to what the little snippets of what you get from Tolkien's writings in this age. But I wanted it to still be linked to Halbrand, and I think I didn't want to just have him change shape into Annatar or Sauron for the sake of it. I want it to be really connected to the core of the character, which is to heal and rehabilitate Middle-earth. And that was the greatest challenge, not just doing things differently for the sake of it, but having them grounded in the reality of his inner life.
And like you mentioned, like Halbrand and Annatar and Sauron, like the way you portray these characters, I think it's really interesting because they also feel like very different characters while also being the same. So I'm really curious for you, what was your approach to that transition? Because I think it's really well done.
Oh, thanks, man. I I uh, I wanted to try and make them all grounded in um this desire of healing Middle Earth. And for me, it was all about this. Annatar had to be all for Celebrimbor. So it's like, what is this kind of figure that would influence the greatest of elven smiths? In the same way that Halbrand had to have this effect on Galadriel, I think Annatar has to have the similar effect on Celebrimbor. So he had to be very lordly. It's not even a word, but wise and carry this level of gravitas and weight that could influence this guy who is just a huge celebrity in Middle Earth and is at the peak of his game.
And you mentioned Celebrimbor there, and that actually brings me into my next question perfectly. I know Charles was supposed to be doing press with us today, and he's not anymore, but I loved your scenes with him. I think your dynamic is excellent, and it was really gripping to watch. My eyes were glued to every second of it. And I'm curious, now that you guys were sharing more screen time, was there a particular scene that when you both read the script, you were both really excited to do?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many actually. There was some really cool. The scene when he throws the hammer at me and I dodge the hammer and then it sort of lets off this chain of events that make him realize that Eregion is crumbling. And that was a really incredible scene. And then I reveal to him that I've used my blood as the mithril and infused the rings with that. Um, that's a really cool scene and a really, really amazing device that the showrunners used. And in the same way, his death scene, Celebrimbor's death, was also incredibly profound for both of us because it was the end of our journey as actors together in doing this really special piece. And yeah, we were both very excited to do those scenes.
And you mentioned this journey as actors together. I'm really curious, since you guys shared a lot of screen time when you were filming, is there something you learned about each other, or was there a particular memory from filming that stuck out to you?
I think we learned that we have a similar way of working. I mean, for me, I often try to follow the other actor's lead in terms of how they want to work. But Charlie and I felt we were really comfortable really quickly working together because we're both very studious and try and focus as much as we can on the work. But in between scenes and shots and stuff, it was quite a light atmosphere, and we had a lot of fun, and there was a lot of laughter, and it was a real pleasure and a highlight of my career because we connected on this level that was as human beings more so than actors, and yeah, we learned that as we went through the season working with each other.
That's so wonderful to hear. Sauron, I think he's a very complicated character, and like all villains are, and I think that's really interesting. Is there a particular trait of his character that you were drawn to especially and you found especially like fun or maybe even challenging to portray while filming the season?
Yeah, I think there's this combination of things that's going on with him. It's like his downfall is fueled by his desire for control and order, and this idea of saving and rehabilitating Middle Earth. And for me, it was exploring like how does that obsession manifest into him doing all this out of control, really evil stuff. And when you combine that with his love for craft and um, he was a pupil of Aule, who was the god of creation, and for him that is a massive thing. So it was how these two parts of his character come together and in this relationship and ultimately lead to his descent back into the darkness.
That's cool to hear. I really like the way you explained that actually. And just for my last question, I'm really curious. So I'm from Toronto and we have this thing called Fan Expo every year. And it's a Comic Con. And at Comic Con this year, basically, they had this Lord of the Rings booth where fans could actually go and make their own rings of power, same design, same color, whatever they wanted. So I'm curious for you as Charlie, what would you want your ring of power to look like?
To look like. That's really cool. I really like the color orange. When I grew up, I had an orange bedroom, which I think might have led to a whole bunch of anxiety and stuff because it was very intense. But I would want it to be orange. Like I think maybe just like with a huge orange stone on the top.
That sounds so cool. Would it be like a gold ring, a silver ring? What would the trim look like around it?
I think a silver ring with an orange stone on the top that just kind of like looks real badass.
That's awesome to hear. I just want to say again, thank you so, so much for taking the time to talk to me. You are incredible in this show, and I cannot wait to see more of it. And I can't wait for the rest of the world to see it. Thank you again
Uh,
for taking the time to talk to me. Enjoy
Thank
the
you
rest of
very
your
much. Appreciate the time. Thanks.
night.